6. Critical reasons why Canada has become Russia's biggest threat. Canada, often seen as a peaceful neighbor, is quietly emerging as a formidable geopolitical player. Now, what if I told you this northern giant is now Russia's biggest headache? If you're wondering why tensions are rising between these two seemingly distant nations, then stick around as we explain why. We've been analyzing geopolitical maps, intelligence reports, and expert opinions to understand the complex relationship between these two nations. And today, we're revealing 6 critical reasons why Canada has become Russia's biggest threat. Let's start with reason number 1. Why is Canada becoming a dominant force in Arctic sovereignty? You see, the Arctic region is often viewed as one of Earth's final frontiers, a remote and icy expanse that holds vast untapped resources and strategic importance. For decades, this frozen territory was overshadowed by more temperate regions, but it has recently emerged as a hotbed of geopolitical competition. As the Arctic's ice retreats and new opportunities arise, one nation is rapidly asserting itself as a key player in this high-stakes arena. Consider the Arctic as a colossal treasure chest, where the key to its wealth lies in its natural resources and strategic location. Canada, once a secondary player in Arctic geopolitics, has been making significant strides in asserting its sovereignty over this region. According to a 2023 report by the Canadian Arctic Research Institute, Canada has significantly increased its investments in Arctic infrastructure, including new icebreakers, military bases, and research stations. This strategic buildup is complemented by Canada's robust legal claims under international law, such as its submission to the United Nations for an extended continental shelf. In contrast, Russia has historically been the dominant force in the Arctic, with an extensive network of bases and a powerful icebreaker fleet. However, Canada's recent advancements are challenging this status quo, emphasizing its growing role in Arctic affairs. You see, when comparing Canada's and Russia's approaches to Arctic sovereignty, notable differences become apparent. Russia's strategy has long involved a strong military presence and an extensive icebreaker fleet, reinforcing its control over large portions of the Arctic. For example, Russia has deployed advanced icebreakers like the Arktika-class vessels and established numerous military installations in the region. In contrast, Canada's strategy is characterized by a more balanced approach that includes both military and civilian investments. Canada is expanding its Arctic research capabilities, enhancing its infrastructure, and leveraging international support to bolster its claims. While Russia focuses on a more militaristic approach, Canada is building a comprehensive strategy that combines security, research, and diplomacy to assert its dominance in the Arctic. Remember, in the frozen expanse of the Arctic, dominance is earned through both strategy and investment. Reason number 2. How is Canada's leadership in Arctic scientific research increasing its strategic influence? Now that we previously mentioned research stations, it's best to know that in the rapidly changing Arctic environment, knowledge is power. Scientific research not only advances our understanding of this critical region, but also plays a pivotal role in shaping international policies and territorial claims. One nation, often underappreciated for its scientific prowess, is emerging as a leader in Arctic research, and this newfound influence is reshaping the geopolitical landscape in the Arctic. Think of the Arctic as a vast, unexplored library of knowledge, where every piece of research unlocks new insights into the region's future potential. Well, Canada's investment in Arctic research has skyrocketed over the past decade, positioning it as a global leader in the study of this unique environment. According to the 2024 Arctic Research Impact Assessment, Canada ranks among the top 3 nations in Arctic scientific output, with pioneering studies on climate change, marine biology, and glaciology. Canada's research stations, such as the Canadian High Arctic Research Station, CHARS, in Nunavut, serve as critical hubs for international collaboration, drawing scientists from around the world. This leadership in research not only enhances Canada's scientific reputation, but also bolsters its claims to Arctic sovereignty, as the data gathered supports its territorial assertions under international law. In contrast, while Russia also invests heavily in Arctic research, its focus tends to be more on resource extraction and militarization, with less emphasis on environmental studies. Comparing the scientific approaches of Canada and Russia in the Arctic highlights a strategic divergence. Canada's focus on comprehensive environmental and climate research strengthens its influence in global discussions on Arctic governance. For instance, Canada's research on permafrost and ice melt contributes crucial data to global climate models, influencing international climate policy and drawing attention to the need for sustainable Arctic development. On the other hand, Russia's research is more narrowly focused on areas that directly support its economic and military interests, such as geological surveys and resource mapping. While this approach reinforces Russia's immediate objectives, it doesn't provide the same breadth of influence in international environmental and scientific circles that Canada's more holistic research agenda does. Remember, in the Arctic, the power of knowledge is as critical as the power of territory. Reason number 3. How has Canada leveraged international alliances to challenge Russia? In global politics, alliances can be more powerful than any single nation's military might. Throughout history, coalitions have shaped the outcomes of conflicts and negotiations, from the alliances of World War II to the modern-day pacts between nations. Today, one country is strategically aligning itself with global powers to counterbalance a traditional giant, altering the dynamics of international influence in a significant way. Imagine alliances as a network of interconnected support systems that enhance a nation's capabilities and influence. Canada's approach to international alliances reflects a strategic effort to build a robust coalition that challenges established powers. According to a 2023 report by the Canadian Global Affairs Institute, Canada has been actively engaging with major global players and organizations. For instance, Canada's role in NATO has been strengthened by its increased military contributions and commitment to collective defense, aligning closely with the United States and European allies. Additionally, Canada's participation in the Arctic Council highlights its efforts to cooperate with other Arctic nations, including the US and Scandinavian countries, to assert its position in the region. Comparatively, Russia's alliances, such as its relationships with China and some Eastern European nations, focus on different strategic interests, often with less emphasis on cooperative, multilateral defense arrangements. When comparing Canada's and Russia's use of alliances, distinct differences emerge. Canada's international strategy involves leveraging multilateral institutions and partnerships to create a collective security framework. For example, its enhanced cooperation with NATO allies and its strategic partnerships within the Arctic Council showcase its commitment to a cooperative approach. Conversely, Russia tends to rely on bilateral relationships and regional alliances, such as its strategic partnership with China and its influence over the Collective Security Treaty Organization. CSTO. While Russia focuses on regional power and direct influence, Canada's approach is more globally integrated, emphasizing shared security and mutual defense among a broader coalition of nations. Remember, in the game of global influence, it's not just about having allies, it's about how effectively you leverage them. Reason number 4. How does Canada's technological advancement compare to Russia's? In the 21st century, technological prowess is often the defining factor in a country's global influence. Nations that excel in technology can not only enhance their own security and economic stability, but also exert significant pressure on global competitors. As the technological landscape evolves, one country is emerging as a formidable player, challenging the long-standing technological dominance of another. Think of technological advancement as a race, where the fastest runners set the pace for others. Canada and Russia are both significant players in this race, but their strategies and outcomes reveal a compelling contrast. According to a 2023 report by the World Intellectual Property Organization, Canada is a global leader in several high-tech fields. It ranks 5th in the world for AI research and 6th for patents in emerging technologies. In contrast, while Russia has made strides in technology, particularly in military applications and space research, it lags behind in fields like artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. The International Data Corporation, IDC, highlights that Russia's technological infrastructure is less developed compared to Canada's, particularly in commercial applications and digital transformation. When comparing the technological advancements of Canada and Russia, the differences become clear. Canada's focus on cutting-edge technologies such as AI, quantum computing, and cybersecurity places it at the forefront of innovation. For example, Canada's investment in AI research, with major hubs in Toronto and Montreal, has positioned it as a global leader in this field. In contrast, Russia's technological strengths are more concentrated in traditional sectors such as military technology and space exploration. While Russia excels in developing advanced defense systems and has a robust space program, its progress in commercial tech and digital innovation is relatively slow compared to Canada's dynamic and rapidly evolving tech landscape. Remember, in the race for technological supremacy, it's not about where you start, it's about who crosses the finish line first. Reason number 5. How is Canada's energy independence undermining Russia's influence? Energy is the lifeblood of modern economies. Control over energy resources and distribution has long been a source of power for nations. For decades, Russia has leveraged its vast reserves of oil and natural gas as a geopolitical weapon, using energy supplies to influence and control other countries. However, in recent years, a new player has been rising, quietly reducing its dependence on foreign energy while building a more resilient and self-sufficient energy sector. Think of energy independence as the foundation of a fortress. The stronger and more self-reliant the foundation, the less vulnerable a nation is to external pressures. Canada, blessed with abundant natural resources, has been steadily fortifying its energy fortress. According to a 2022 report by the International Energy Agency, IEA, Canada is one of the top 5 oil producers globally and ranks 3rd in the world for proven oil reserves. But Canada's energy strategy goes beyond just oil. It's heavily investing in renewable energy, with wind, solar, and hydroelectric power playing increasingly important roles. This dual approach not only secures Canada's energy needs, but also positions it as a leader in the global shift toward greener energy sources. When comparing Canada's energy strategy to Russia's, there is definitely a stark contrast. Russia has long relied on its energy exports to maintain influence, particularly over Europe, where many countries are dependent on Russian gas. Canada, on the other hand, has been diversifying its energy portfolio and reducing its reliance on any single resource or market. While Russia uses energy as a tool of coercion, Canada is leveraging its energy independence to foster partnerships and stability. This difference in approach is weakening Russia's grip on global energy markets and diminishing its ability to use energy as a geopolitical weapon. Remember, in the battle for energy supremacy, true power lies in self-reliance. Reason number 6. How is Canada's Indigenous collaboration strengthening its Arctic presence? You see, in the vast, icy expanse of the Arctic, where survival has always required deep knowledge of the land, one factor is often overlooked in discussions of power and sovereignty: the role of Indigenous peoples. For thousands of years, Indigenous communities have lived in harmony with the Arctic environment, possessing unparalleled expertise in navigating its harsh conditions. In recent years, one country has recognized the critical importance of these communities, integrating their knowledge and rights into its Arctic strategy in ways that are reshaping its influence in the region. Imagine the Arctic as a complex puzzle, where each piece of the land and sea must fit together perfectly to reveal the full picture. Canada's approach to Arctic sovereignty increasingly relies on the unique insights and leadership of its Indigenous populations to piece together this puzzle. According to a 2023 report by Indigenous and Northern Affairs Canada, the Canadian government has entered into numerous agreements with Inuit, First Nations, and Métis communities, recognizing their land claims and integrating their traditional knowledge into environmental and resource management. This collaborative approach is not just about legal recognition. It is about incorporating Indigenous ways of knowing into the governance and stewardship of the Arctic, which in turn strengthens Canada's claims and presence in the region. Comparatively, Russia's approach to its Indigenous populations in the Arctic has been more centralized and less focused on collaboration, often prioritizing state control over local input. When comparing Canada's collaboration with Indigenous communities to Russia's approach, the differences are clear. Canada's strategy emphasizes partnership and mutual respect, with Indigenous communities playing a central role in decision-making processes. For example, the Inuit Tapiriit Kanatami, an Inuit advocacy organization, has been instrumental in shaping Canadian policies on Arctic development and environmental protection. This contrasts with Russia's top-down approach, where Indigenous voices are often sidelined in favor of state-driven agendas. Canada's model of collaboration not only ensures that Indigenous rights are protected, but also enhances its moral and legal standing in international discussions about Arctic sovereignty. Remember, in the Arctic, true strength comes from those who know the land best. Now, what do you think will be the most significant factor influencing Arctic sovereignty in the next decade? Let us know in the comments. If you're interested to learn more about geopolitics, be sure to check out our videos to help you out. See you there.